Hello, and welcome to Texas A&M Commerce's presentation on Senate Bill 11, or what is commonly being referred to as campus concealed carry. I am Detective Sergeant Kyle Lowe with the Texas A&M University Commerce Police Department. Since Governor Greg Abbott signed Senate Bill 11 into law, higher education administrators and university police departments have been frequently questioned on details of the bill and how universities would react to the new laws. In this presentation, we will be discussing the laws relating to the carrying of concealed handguns on this public campus. Let's start with a brief overview of Senate Bill 11. On June 13, 2015, Senate Bill 11 was signed into law by Governor Greg Abbott. Currently, a concealed handgun license holder may carry a concealed handgun on or about their person on the grounds of an institution of higher education. Grounds includes any public or private driveway, street, sidewalk or walkway, parking lot, parking garage, or other parking area, but they may not carry into buildings. As of August 1, 2016, Senate Bill 11 expands the current locations that a handgun license carrier may carry a concealed handgun to include a building or a portion of a building. It is important to note that this law will not take effect until August 1, 2016, thus providing time for public institutions of higher education to set their reasonable rules, regulations, and provisions prior to the effective date. In the lower portion of the slide, you will see the two main affected Texas codes and the respective statutes. Feel free to revisit these codes and statutes for the actual wording of the new laws. Texas A&M University System has provided its university's guidance regarding undertaking the task of implementing Senate Bill 11. As stated, our goal will be to implement the bill in a manner consistent with the legislature's intent and that enhances the safety and well-being of everyone on our campuses. The bill asks us to consult with students, staff, and faculty during the implementation process, and we will make sure those voices are heard. We will have the necessary rules and policies in place by the time the legislation goes into effect on August 1, 2016. Let's visit some of the details of Senate Bill 11. The new law allows a handgun license holder to carry a concealed handgun on or about their person into academic buildings, on campus sidewalks, in residential housing, and in campus transportation belonging to public institutions of higher education. Besides the normal restrictions for handgun license holders under Texas Penal Code Chapter 46, Section 46.035, Senate Bill 11 also prohibits a license holder from carrying a concealed handgun and any other firearm, illegal knife, club, or prohibited weapon. It prohibits a license holder from partially or wholly showing their handgun. This act must have been done intentionally or knowingly by the license holder. If the act is an accident, it is not illegal. For instance, if a license holder bends over to pick up their backpack and the bottom of a holstered handgun is viewed by another person and the act is not purposeful, the act is not illegal. And it prohibits a license holder from displaying the handgun in plain view of another person. This act must also be done intentionally or knowingly by the license holder. An example of this would be two license holders discussing the type of handguns they are carrying, and one license holder intentionally and knowingly shows the other license holder their handgun. A handgun license holder is also restricted from going into a university building where a high school or interscholastic event is taking place. This restriction is also available for entering collegiate sporting events. However, effective notice must be provided to the license holder. License holders are also prohibited from entering any place or portion of a place prohibited by rules, regulations, or other provisions, and effective notice has been provided to the license holder. A handgun license holder is considered to have received effective notice if the university provides notice by oral or written communication that is defined under Texas Penal Code Chapter 30, Section 30.06. Notice can be given on a card or other document, or notice can be a sign posted outside the building or portion of the building. It is the responsibility of the handgun license holder to look for the effective notice posted on institutions of higher education and to act accordingly. Senate Bill 11 also places restrictions on institutions of higher education. First and foremost, no institution may adopt a rule, regulation, or other provision that outright prohibits the carrying of a handgun by a license holder on an institution of higher education. Not only that, the Texas legislature went one step further to declare that no institution may establish provisions that generally prohibit or have the effect of generally prohibiting the carrying of a concealed handgun. An example of a generally prohibitive rule would be to declare that any buildings on a campus that house any type of service where monetary transactions take place are considered prohibited buildings for license holders. Due to the number of buildings on an institution of higher education in which this rule would apply, and with no specific buildings named, the rule could be considered generally prohibitive. You will notice the underlined word may at the top of this slide. When reading the laws of the state of Texas, if the words may or can are used, the law may provide an option to or options for enforcement of that particular law. In this case, Senate Bill 11 has provided public institutions of higher education the option to establish rules, regulations, or other provisions regarding the storage of handguns inside dormitories and residential facilities. Please note the wording of the bill and that the option has not been given to allow public universities to adopt rules regarding the prohibition of handguns inside dormitories and residential facilities. Public universities may only implement rules regarding the storage of handguns in those areas. You will notice the underlined word shall at the top of this slide. When reading the laws of the state of Texas, if the words shall or will are used, there are no other options for the enforcement of that particular law. So, in this case, public institutions of higher education shall widely distribute their rules, regulations, and provisions to the public, and they must post those rules, regulations, and provisions on their university website. This institution must consult with the students, staff, and faculty regarding specific safety considerations, the nature of the student population, and the uniqueness of the campus environment. The consultation could take place in the form of a survey, small or large classroom instruction, university community updates, or in any other form or option. And we shall establish reasonable rules, regulations, or other provisions regarding the carrying of handguns on this campus. Notice the word reasonable in quotations. This is a word used by the state of Texas, and one should take note that anything deemed unreasonable will not be approved. These rules, regulations, and provisions are to be approved by Texas A&M University Commerce President Dr. Dan Jones to take effect. Once approved by President Jones, Texas A&M University Commerce has 90 days to send the reasonable rules, regulations, and other provisions to the Texas A&M Board of Regents, who will review them and can amend them partially or wholly by a vote of not less than 2/3. Also, all rules, regulations, and other provisions must be submitted to the Texas Legislature every even-numbered year. This submittal shall include a description of the rules, regulations, and other provisions regarding the carrying of handguns on this institution of higher education, and shall include an explanation of the reasons the institution has established those provisions. Clearly, the Texas Legislature is placing the burden of proof on institutions of higher education and demanding that they justify their rules, regulations, and other provisions that prohibit a handgun license holder from carrying a concealed handgun in any building or portion of a building. In an effort to comply with this new law, Texas A&M University Commerce has formed the Campus Concealed Carry Task Force. This task force and its members have been charged with the implementation of Senate Bill 11 by its effective date. In this slide, you will notice that all recommendations regarding Senate Bill 11 will be made to our President, Dr. Dan Jones, by December 1st, 2015. Part of these recommendations will include the suggested gun-free zones for Texas A&M University Commerce. As we wrap up this presentation on the laws relating to the carrying of concealed handguns on campus, let me leave you with a few things to consider. First, as of 2014, Texas has approximately 826,000 handgun license holders. That is approximately 5% of the eligible handgun license population of Texas, and approximately 86% of those handgun license holders were above the age of 30. Second, with few exceptions, handgun license holders must be 21 years of age or older. This age requirement, in and of itself, prohibits a large number of students staying in dormitories and residence halls from lawfully possessing a handgun. For example, as of 2015, only 491 of the 2,305 students living in Texas A&M University Commerce residence halls were 21 years of age or older. And for this purpose, we will consider all 491 students to be eligible to possess a handgun under Texas state law. When the percentage of Texas handgun license holders is multiplied by the number of eligible handgun license holders in our residence halls, only 25 of the 2,305 students are anticipated to possess a handgun license. Third, Texas state law has, for 20 years, allowed licensed handgun owners to carry concealed handguns on campus grounds. As stated at the beginning of this presentation, the main difference on August 1st, 2016 is that handgun license holders will now be able to travel from the campus sidewalks and parking lots into campus buildings. And finally, remember that although House Bill 910, which legalizes the open carry of handguns by license holders, will be effective in January of 2016, neither House Bill 910 nor Senate Bill 11 allows the open carry of handguns on institutions of higher education. If the handgun license holder is responsibly and lawfully carrying their handgun in the prescribed manner, it should be difficult to distinguish a license holder from a non-license holder. Texas A&M University Commerce would like to thank you for viewing this presentation and educating yourself on the requirements set forth by Senate Bill 11. We would like to remind you that Senate Bill 11 is now a law, and Texas A&M University Commerce will follow the law as intended by the state of Texas. Please continue to check back with us for updates on the rules, regulations, and provisions as we move closer towards the August 1st, 2016 effective date. If you have further questions regarding Senate Bill 11 and the carrying of concealed handguns on institutions of higher education, please visit our frequently asked questions section at www.tamuc.edu/CCC.